Please, God, either make this a complete video or kill me now. This has been, I think, the 10th take I'm trying to make this video. Anyways, so I'm gonna let Grognog the Barbarian try to explain everything that I've been trying to do for the past 10 takes. So, here we go. Me need to complete game. Me need to make game look good. Me look into light engines. Me spent $30 on 10 different light engines. All light engines suck. If you wanna have good light engine, you do it yourself. Anyways, so that pretty much brings you up to what the hell kind of shenanigans I've been up to for the past 3 months, 2 months, somewhat. Okay, so right after this video, I'm gonna make an actual update video where I talk about, you know, miscellaneous stuff. So you want to check that out. You know that it's there. Anyways, so yes, as I said, I have been trying to find a light engine that works, and I've spent about $30 on different light engines from Yo-Yo Games marketplace, which is where programmers in GameMaker can publish their extensions and DLLs and shaders and whatnot. So I found a few light engines, and if I mentioned in the previous some of the previous videos, I don't have a job anymore. I've been laid off, and I've spent some of my last money on some of these light engines because I was kind of thinking, okay, I need to like come up with a with some kind of source of income really quickly. So I started looking into improving the visual quality of the game, of the RTAG Rise game, so I could try to put it up for early access as quickly as possible. But anyways, that being said, all the engines that I've found suck major dicks. Or I should say, they're not bad engines, but what happens is when you have a complicated game, a lot of those engines lack compatibility, which basically they're so convoluted that trying to edit those engines to fit your game makes those engines just completely broken, right? At which point, the amount of work it would take you in order to adjust their engine to work on your game or with your game, if your game is a complex type of a project, there would be more work doing that than just coming up with your own fucking system from scratch. It is ridiculous, but at the same time, it's you know the saying, if you want to have shit done right, you got to do it yourself. So here I am, testing out my lighting system. Now, if you have seen my previous video, you know that a lot of these light engines, what they try to do is they don't give you an option to just display shadows, or just display the lights, or just do one thing instead of the whole thing. No, they insist on replacing the entire lighting system. And if you've seen my previous video, you know that my first dynamic shadow system, it was a proof of concept to see if you can have a lighting system without the use of shaders, DLLs, extensions, external files, scripts, and stuff like that. It was a proof of concept that worked. The problem is that it's a little performance hungry, so to speak, or it's a little resource hungry, and that is, in order to find out the 4 points that make up your polygon, that makes up your shadow, you need to have 4 loops. Now, each object needs to have 4 loops to make up a shadow. 4 objects, that's 16 4 loops. 20 objects, that's a buttfuck load of 4 loops. Alright? And each 4 loop has to pause the game in order to calculate the shadow for it. So the more objects you have, the more 4 loops stop your entire game, which means that if you have a slower processor and the game is running slowly, you start seeing the performance drop almost exponentially with like every 2 objects you add. So it sucks, but the fun thing is people have found ways of using that specific engine in their games, in their like mobile games, when they need only maybe 2 or 3 objects they need to have shadows cast on them, which works. So I'm like, yeah, good for you, thank you. Anyways, that being said, at this point, as I said, I didn't have a job. I needed to quickly improve my game, bring it up to quality. So I was looking for ways to improve the ambiance. And instead of, since I had the dynamic shadow system, I wasn't going to use that here. I figured, okay, I need to make some static shadows. And obviously I'm not going to be making those out of sprites because those are going to be taking a lot of memory. And I've actually ended up taking a lot of the assets out of the game right now. There were big sprites that I'm just going to have to... because they were taking a lot of time to load into the memory with every compile and every save into a new file. So I completely threw those out, which were including the splash screen, the main menu, which is why I'm redesigning the main menu in a different style now. But I need to make a shadow system, or I needed to make a shadow system that was lightweight, that worked, that only had to fire once, since those are static shadows. I don't need any dynamic shadows at this point. So this is what I came up with. What I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly compile this. Oh god, let me check OBS. Did I press record? Yes, I pressed record. I'm not an idiot this time. Okay. This is take 11 of me just trying to do this video. I've gone into a complete frenzy of just making these videos without any editing. I do not have time for editing my mistakes and my formalities and, you know, my political correctness. So, here is the demonstration of the light shadow. As you can see, we've got some lights, especially this point light right here, but it's kind of bleeding into areas it's not supposed to be bleeding. There are no shadows. Now, okay, this kind of looks ambient-ish already. I get it. But it's not good enough for me. I need to have some more advanced lighting, something more than regular. So, what I've ended up doing is I have implemented a manual shadow creation kit, so to speak, into each one of these lights. And I'm using DS maps in order to store the coordinates of those lights. If you watched my other video, I stored the coordinates for the 3 points to make up a portion of a shadow. So here we go. I press E, and obviously I wrote some instructions for myself. Now, just remind myself how the engine works. If I press right click on the mouse, I can snap to either one axis or the other axis. As you can see, it's snapping to the Y positions, but not snapping along the X positions. The red line represents the light ray, so I can trace or track where the lights is supposedly hitting, so I can create my shadows, which I'm going to demonstrate right now. So, let's say here we have a corner right there. Obviously, the light is not going to go anywhere past here for this light source. So I'm going to go ahead and click point 1. I'm going to right click several times until I'm snapping to the x-axis, and I'm going to click for point 2, and now I'm going to go ahead and snap back to snapping for the both axes. I'm going to click on the corner right there. So as you can see, now we have a triangle, and this is just a portion of a shadow. Now we're going to press insert, and I'm going to press end. And we have our shadow actually being drawn. We have a visual representation of the shadow. Now, as I mentioned, I'm using DS maps instead of arrays in order to write what the shadow is. Now, the reason I'm using DS maps is because it is such a flexible system of storing data, especially the function that allows you to draw or to save the DS map as a string. And as you can see, when I press a button, you have this long line of code. And what this is basically the DS map in a form of a string that contains all my coordinates for the 3 points of the shadows. So I'm going to go ahead and create the rest of my shadows. So I'm going to click point 1, point 2, point 3, insert end. Okay, here's the rest of our shadow. So now obviously we need a little shadow right here. So we're going to go click point 1. Let's go ahead and click point 2 and point 3. Insert end. Alright, so if I'm going to go down here, obviously you can see that there is a shadow right there. Now we also need to check the shadows up here. As you can see, we got some light bleeding into areas it should not be bleeding into. Anyways, so once again, point 1, I'm gonna switch to horizontal snapping. So here we go, point 2. I'm gonna place point 3 somewhere up here. insert end, and now I'm gonna need to go to 0.1, 0.2, and 0.3 should be right there. Insert end. Okay, so that should be pretty much makes our shadow. Now I have not finished drawing these properly to a surface, so right now they're just drawing on top, but you can see that they're actually working. So as you can see down here, you can tell that this adds so much more ambience to the level. It just does. It has more character to the lighting, and the fact that you can actually use lighting to direct players to certain locations. Like if I'm gonna add another player right now, you can add, well, okay, well, I'm working on a camera system. I'm actually remaking the camera system from scratch because it was glitching. In fact, I don't even have to, because it's not glitching anymore. Or the glitches that I found were related to the light engine that I was using, not the camera system. So I can actually get my old camera system back. Anyways, so here's the thing. I'm gonna go ahead and close. If I'm gonna close the project right now, I'm gonna recompile it, I'm gonna lose all of those shadows because they're not being saved anywhere. But as you can see, when I close the engine, or close lighting engine, I told it to print out my DS map with all the shadows in it. So I'm gonna go ahead and copy this. If I'm gonna compile this, you can see that there are no shadows in there anymore, so to speak. Oh, and this is one of the soundtracks I've written for the for this game. Okay, so as you can see, no shadows here. I'm gonna go ahead and close it. If I'm gonna open my creation code for that light, I have my shadow variable, which contains a string. I'm gonna paste the string that I copied from the debugging window, compile this, and I should have all my shadows back. So I basically made my little tiny editor of shadows, and I think this is gonna come in really handy. Okay, here we go. Our shadows are back, and this time they are permanent. Handy stuff. Really handy stuff. So anyways, there's a little light bug. Gotta move that lighting thing. Anyways, so as I said, I didn't have a job. I actually did find a local job, which is one piece of good news, which I'm going to talk about in the actual update video that's coming right after this video. So, if you've lasted this long, you can go check that out too. But anyways, lots of good stuff there. I'm going to talk about making a video series about me making a game, about a concept that I wanted to make for such a long time, but I'm going to talk about it in that video, and just a whole bunch of other stuff. Anyways, so if you want, I can, since I did get a local job here near my house, it's very convenient. So I'm actually gonna go and say fuck you to Patreon, and instead of Patreon, if you want to donate, I will post a link to an album of soundtracks I've written for an older online game that I've written music for about 2-3 years ago. It's about $10. It's what you would usually expect for an album on like iTunes or anything. But it's not like donating money. You're actually getting something in return. And I think there's about like 15 something soundtracks for that game that I was writing the music for. So you're actually getting something in return. You're not just giving away money. But that will help me to, as it will be basically looked at as a contribution to my work. And if you want, I can go ahead and post a tutorial on, or actually post the project file for this lighting creation kit, or this shadow creation kit, and I can, probably improve on it a little bit. Maybe you can draw shadows or draw lights which is what I was thinking right now. You know, post the project files, just like with that other dynamic shadow system. Explain how you operate it, how it works, what are the limitations, and how to implement it in your project. Anyways, I've been trying to have this one hiccup from drinking the water. Anyways, yeah, if you want to like and subscribe and share and do, you know, whatnot, you know, do the thing that you do, I would greatly appreciate it. And stay in touch. You know, check out that other video I'm gonna post in a second about the updates. Okay, so hope you guys liked it, and see you next time.